Let me introduce you to Mr. Ronnie Evans. Mr. Evans is local Maconian, has played guitar literally anywhere you're going to mention. He's a wonderful guitarist, and better that, he's a better friend and a really good man. So please give Ronnie Evans a good hand for his entertainment. Mr. Evans also, as you go back outside, he's just released a new CD from classic guitar you heard. And if you got a little extra money, you don't take credit cards. Just cash. We don't believe in checks or credit cards. Makes sense. Got a little cash, show me a top to you. But Ronnie, thank you so much. Thank you. We, of course, we want to thank the folks who supplied our dinner. You're about to have a wonderful meal. The appetizer was good. I'm still here to put the thanks for us. And but a few folks that want to come and thank you that didn't get an opportunity at our board meeting. First of all, most of y'all know her. She's our district representative for the association from Graham County. I'd like to ask Commissioner Connie Orr to please come. Connie Orr has done a wonderful job as a district representative for our part of the world, and we appreciate her very much. So Connie, if you would please come. But you may. Please welcome Connie. She does a great job. Connie's from Graham County. Now, to know where Graham County is from here is about 90 minutes. So this is West North Carolina. This is just the tip of it. So, Connie, please welcome the good folks.
Happy to. Cheerios. That's hello in Cherokee, and I know that because I just got off the phone with my grandson, and he's on the road of the Eastern Band Cherokee. And where on Beach Creek, where I live, is ho. So, hello to everyone, and welcome. The group from Raleigh. Y'all got good names for them, but the group from Raleigh, you guys are always just Johnny on the spot, and you do a great job. It's been a really good day. Ronnie, he's a hard act to follow if he just said hello himself. But anyway, and you've done a good job. Everybody in Macon County, if you want someone to make you feel welcome and like you're cared about, come to Western North Carolina. If you ever come here and you find that's not the case, please call me and I'll come straight to you. As I was going in the bank down that huge monstrosity of a bank up on the hill there today, there was a little lady going in the same door with me. And she was struggling a little bit, so I was going to help her get in the door. And this nice young man, I don't know who he was, but he held the door for us. And she was just about that tall. And she looked up at me and she said, "Honey, how tall are you?" And I said, "I'm 6 feet tall, ma'am." She said, "Oh, Lord, no, honey, you can't be 6 feet tall." And I said, "No, ma'am, I'm 5'12". She said, "I know." So, welcome to North Carolina. Where I live in Graham County, we kind of come to all those other same counties and touch you there at the top of the bridge too. And you'll never find a better place with better people to work with. And yeah, we have, not only do we have to, we want to form a coalition and work together as a group. I won't say regionalized because that could be a dirty word in some places, but where I live, one more step and you volunteer up there. So we're closer to Knoxville than we are Asheville, but we're North Carolinians and very, very proud of it. We live in a wonderful state. We have Mark Meadows with us tonight. Outstanding representation. If you need something from Mark, he'll actually answer the phone too. Like Dave, I think you answered the phone. Thank you also very much. Sometimes, and I've heard Ronnie say this, when our people are elected and they go to Washington or to Raleigh or wherever it is they go, and you try to get them on the phone, it's just a try. But the people on the ground are our county commissioners. And I would like to thank each and every single one of you who serve the people of your county. Never forget that they are are your first priority. And they pay the bills, okay? So it's coming budget time now, and I'm not looking totally forward to that, but I'm ever mindful of who has to pay for what I budget. So enjoy your wonderful meal, and thank you for coming, Sheriff, and Mrs. Sheriff. I don't do names. Okay. But thanks again. Welcome, and look forward to fellowshipping with each of you the rest of the evening.
I'd also like to introduce the Vice Chairman of our board. Now, he lives up in Highlands. Those of you who went on a little bus trip up the road that y'all claim is crooked, this is where Jimmy Kay lives. Jimmy Kay is in his second term as he's Vice Chairman of our board. Does a wonderful job for the people of Macon County. A good representative and a good friend. Please make welcome our Vice Chairman, Mr. Jimmy Kay.
I know he calls me the Vice Chair of our county, but I'm really just the Commissioner in the shadow.
You didn't get the joke.
In all seriousness, welcome to Macon County. I'm not going to elaborate much on that, but what I would like to do, since I haven't done it before, is to publicly thank Ronnie Bill for being the president of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, and not only representing the state so finely, but representing Western North Carolina. I think a lot of you, after coming here, now realize some of the troubles that we go through here. But let me tell you some of the problems and issues that he deals with. Think of how much time it takes to be away from his family, his business, his term as a commissioner, just to travel to Raleigh and all these meetings. From right here, you can be in the state capital of Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, all quicker than you can be to our own state capital. But he travels, it seems like weekly he's going to Raleigh for something, to do something, to represent not only us here in Western North Carolina, but all of you. So, Ronnie Bill, thank you.
Thank you. Also, I'd like to introduce you to our county manager. His name is Derek Rowland. Derek is homegrown. He's a Macon County lad who was educated in Macon County. He's been on the job a year in December. He's doing a great job for the people of Macon County. He's quite an attractive young man. Me and him used to work out a lot together. So, I miss working out today, but maybe 5 years in a row I missed. But Derek Rowland is a great asset to the folks of Macon County. We hope he's here for many, many years. He made an address today to Western Carolina to the graduating, to the master's graduating class. He's well respected, and during his short term as county manager of Macon County, many of the other county managers now are calling on Derek. So please welcome our county manager, who we're so proud of, Mr. Derek Rowland.
Thank you, Ronnie. It's good to see all of y'all again. It seems like just yesterday I was addressing the group in August when you came up with the NCACC at another event. So it's good to see the familiar faces, and most importantly, commissioners, our commissioners included. I'd like to echo everything that Commissioner Tate said about Mr. Bill. He is a great asset to our county and a great asset to the state as well. Glad that Congressman Meadows could join us tonight. Glad to have him here, and just like to really thank each and every one of you as commissioners for what you do for your counties and the role that you play. And it really is true that you're the government that's closest to home, that you're the faces that people see, the ones people go talk to, and you're on the front line there. So thank each and every one of you for what you do. As Mr. Bill was saying, I did give an address today to my alma mater at Western, to the graduate school, and what I talked about was common sense management. And I had made quite a few points, but the overall point that I was trying to make is when you graduate with your master's degree, you have the knowledge, but in day-to-day management, you need to call on your common sense every chance you get, because you'll find that you use that more than anything. And so that's what I was telling addressing the crowd there. Told them many things. Started with the basic stuff, being on time, working hard, being the first one there, last one to leave, thinking you learned all your life. Went on into when you're always have the manager hat on, no matter where you're at, no matter what you're doing. So you always have to act like it. And went on in to talk about how that, there's many people out there that would love to see you fail, and how that's so hard to believe. But it's true. And I reminded them, as the old saying goes, behind every successful man, there's a surprise mother-in-law. So make that point. But I went on to say, you don't have to be, when you're going into management, especially in the public sector, you don't have to know everything. And you don't have to think you know everything. And why is that? Because you have organizations like the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. And I know as a young county manager, I have called upon the NCACC many times. And they have held my hand as I have learned and grown as a county manager. And not only that, it brings, like I said earlier, the commissioners that are the front lines in our government today. It brings them together and a chance to communicate and interact and network. And the organization is not only providing a resource out there for managers like me, it is such a strong voice in the state legislature. And as it becomes clear, we're needing it now more than ever. And I just appreciate what you do, each and every one of you, this association. Thank you for being here, and welcome to Macon County.
You see why we're quite proud of our young county commissioner, Mr. Jerry Crow. We are very proud. One other person I want to introduce before I ask my good friend to come and ask the blessing. Sheriff Holland, we appreciate the help of the deputy so much. And I'd like to introduce you to his lovely wife, Marcy. And as you know, being a county manager takes a partner. You can imagine what kind of partner it takes to be a sheriff. So Marcy, welcome. We're glad you're here. I'd like to call on my good friend from Randolph County, Commissioner Darrell Fry, to please come and bless her meal. Then I'll give you instructions how I'm going to eat first, and then we'll figure it out. Several years ago, as a young commissioner, one of the first persons I met at the association was a gentleman you see standing up here beside me now from Randolph County, who encouraged me, who gave me good guidance, has been a mentor to me in more ways than one. Not only is he a good friend, he is a mentor, not only to me, but to many others who's went through this association. Quality folks and quality commissioner for his people in Randolph County. So as he comes to ask the blessing, please give my good friend Darrell Fry a good hand. Thank you.
If I could ever take credit in any way for this man and the job that he's done for this association, I would have achieved a lot. I've been coming to these meetings for a long, long time. I just started my 33rd year as a county commissioner. And I always have learned from these events as professionally, as a county commissioner. But my greatest benefit over these years has been the friendship and the fellowship that I've gotten to enjoy and to know on Ronnie and with all of you. And it has broadened my life. It has given me a greater appreciation for my fellow man and for the great diversity of this state. And I just take this time to thank all of you for your courtesies to me and your friendship and fellowship to me over the years. And I look forward to every time that we have together in whatever fashion it might be. Will you bow with me as we give thanks? Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for taking time to hear our prayer. We come first of all to thank you for your many blessings to us, for safe travel to this location, for the business that we've already been through today, and the discussions that we've had. It's broadened our knowledge and helped us to be better commissioners and better to serve your creation. We thank you for this beautiful area, beautiful mountains that we're reminded of how you created all of this world for us to enjoy. In this great state, from the seashore to the mountains, you created all of it for us to enjoy. And we give you thanks for your majesty and for your greatness. thank you for the safe travel that's brought us to this place, and we ask for a safe return home. Many have driven many miles to make this trip, and we thank you for the safety. Thank you for the food, the bounty of our table, not just now, but for all your many blessings to us, every day and every way in our life. I pray for my county commissioner, my friends, for their staffs, for the great staff of this association, and for those who lead us in North Carolina and in Washington. Thank you for all you do. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Now we're going to eat. So what we'll do is this side of the room, with our special folks, I know you might be finished with dessert. Give Ronnie Evans another good hand. He's a great entertainer. I see the three. I see what I know exactly. There's one person that when we talked about Holly Springs that really takes care of not only his church, he makes his hall available to us. He'll be here after we all leave. Does a great job for the congregation of Holly Springs and a good make county and an asset to our community. I'd like for you to please give a good hand to the facilities administrator of Holly Springs, Mr. Matthew Scott. Matt, stand up. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate it very much. Our special guest, and we're so privileged to have him here tonight. And believe me, it's been an ordeal for him to get here, to be with you tonight. He took a very special effort, and if he wants to go into details, how that's like it's up to him. But he did take he was, to get from Charlotte to Asheville, as Charlie and Sheila Mester can attest sometimes, is a real chore. And, but we can't thank the Congressman Mark Meadows enough for being here with us. You need to know that the district he represents is District 11. Now, the district he represents is not the most in population, but by far the biggest department in miles. If you know anything about West North Carolina, I brought y'all enough maps you should know where you're at by now. So you go from Cherokee County, which is Murphy, you go all the way. Now, in Cherokee County, there's a community called Ranger. Ranger touches Tennessee. So from the Ranger District to Hardscrabble in Yancey County, then you go to the tip of McDowell County, and everything that encompasses that, Buncombe County, Henderson, is 11th District. Now, is that the biggest population? No. Is that the most miles traveled? If you want a day trip, leave Murphy, go to Yancey County, and swoop down to Buncombe County, drop over to Henderson, go to McDowell. Now, if you want a day trip, try that sometime. That's our congressman's district. Mark Meadows lives in Cashman, North Carolina. Now, that's in Jackson County. Barely. We tried to get in Macon County, but he just moved to North Carolina. This is his second term. Mark Meadows is my friend. He's a friend to counties. What Connie Orr said is correct. You might differ politically. You might differ on views of things. But Mark has always been, way before he was a congressman, we were friends. But you could always talk to Mark. And as a congressman, you could talk to Mark. So, and I believe there's some in this room that can find it very difficult to pick up your phone and talk to your congressman. We have had many visits with Mark. He's a friend to rural counties. There's some votes that he just did on for rural counties. Now, not every county he represents would you consider rural, but the majority are. So, our congressman and constituency service is at the top. He is the best friend to veterans we could ever ask for. He recognizes their effort to law enforcement. So we're proud. He's always available. He's available to us as commissioner and as counties. He's concerned what goes on in the counties. And I appreciate him very much. So please make welcome the Honorable Mark Meadows, representing the 11th District. Thank you.
good evening and welcome. Officially, I know you've been here, you've gotten the curvy roads, you've got all of that down pat. For those of you, some of you have traveled a long way up here on this front. I know how far it is, when you're going over that way. You say, well, you do a day's driving and then you do another half day's driving and you get here. So, but I just wanted to say officially, welcome. Ronnie, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for all you do. Let me tell you, Ronnie puts himself into everything that he does, not just this job, but everything that he's done. And he's right, we're friends. But he's also, I had the privilege of calling him one of my commissioners. And so you're very fortunate. I understand next time we're going to be in Pitt County. Is that correct? We got, I told him he had big shoes to fill, and he said, boy, you're saying that's right. And here is my offer to you. Ronnie and a number of the county commissioners came up to Washington, D.C. Just a few weeks back. And the great thing is with all of my county commissioners, I know them by their first name. And they know me by my first name. And, whether it's Johnny and Bert, Bill and Haywood, or Charlie and Hendersonville, or, Connie and Graham, or Jim, or Gary, or Ronnie, and make what happens is that when you have that personal relationship, it makes a big difference because there's a face with every request. Now, the other good thing is when I get the complaints, I shared some of this with some of y'all when you were in Washington, D.C. When I get the complaints about the dog barking, I do know your first name and I will call you. It's interesting. You will get many of the complaints that sometimes we would say they are a pebble in your shoe. You ever get a pebble in your shoe and you kind of walk along and the pebble's there and you just, it's easier just to leave it in your shoe than deal with it. I can tell you, after a while, you end up having to take your shoe off and dump the pebble out. And I guess my encouragement to all of you is to establish a relationship with those that are in both state and federal government, where those pebbles that are in your shoe, that you deal with them. Because what happens is ultimately, if you don't deal with them, they get to be a big problem. So I'm going to cover a few items, but before I do that, you've heard Sheriff Robbie Holland and Marcy, and they're just a great sheriff and first lady. I also have my good friend Tony. Actually, Tony helped me with doing my concealed carry recently, and I want to tell you, when you put concealed carry on Facebook in my district, it goes crazy. I mean, they love to see that. Now, it may not be the same over in Durham, and I'm looking at my Durham friends there. I mean, it may not be the same, but I do want to say this: we are facing challenging times as a nation, as a state, and in our counties. Now, they're not just challenging from a financial standpoint. They're challenging in ways that we have to do business unlike ever before. And so I want to ask you, all of you, because all of you have sheriffs that you have to deal with. Most of the time, those relationships are good. But if you would, be praying for our law enforcement officers, our first responders. If you would do that, I ask that as a personal request. Because the enemy is real, guys. And today we're talking about ISIS across the ocean. But tomorrow it may very well be, as many of you can attest to, in our state and in your county. And so if you would just pray for their safety, because a lot of them, the budgets. And you know that many of them do their job not because of the money they get paid. It's because of the calling that they've answered. And so I just want to encourage you there. I want to talk a little bit about unfunded mandates. Now, I know all of you just love unfunded mandates. Now, I can say unfunded mandates because most of the time that cuts across political parties. it was interesting. The other day we were debating unfunded mandates. Well, before we talk about debate, I need to talk about, Ronnie talked about me leaving my wife, and since we have reporters here, I want to say there is nothing true about me leaving my wife other than this. I'll tell the rest of the story. Ronnie, a couple of weeks ago, asked me to come, and I said, listen, we've got votes on that Thursday, but I tell you what, we hopefully will get out. I'll book the very earliest flight I can, and try to make sure that I can be there to welcome all the great folks to Western North Carolina. So my flight today was at 1:45, leaving from D.C. Reagan. Now the problem is I got the votes and it said we were going to finish votes at 1:30. And so I'm sitting there going, well, there's no way I'm going to have to call Ronnie and tell him I can't make it and this and that. So I went and I kept saying, we've got to move these votes up. We've got to speed this thing along. And sure enough, the debate was going along. Well, there was one part of the debate. I went over to one of my colleagues. I said, listen, I got to catch a flight. Will you get this debate and just get it over with very quickly? So 1 minute later, he was done with his debate. We were voting, and I was getting in the car. And so we got on the airplane and take off, and we got to Charlotte, Charlie. We got to Charlotte. Now, I think in order to get to heaven, you've got to connect through Charlotte, especially if you fly U.S. Air. And so I got to Charlotte, and there I am in Charlotte, and they say my connecting flight is late. I said, oh gosh, here we go again. And we were on a tight time frame, and so it was 45 minutes late, which actually means an hour and a half. And so when we were there, I come running up, and there is a flight that is taking off early. Well, actually, it's taking off late, but it was still there within 10 minutes. And so I went up and I said, can I get on the flight? She goes, have you checked any bags? I said, yeah, I'm afraid so, but my wife is traveling with me. I can leave her with the bags. That way, if the thing blows up, she blows up with my bag. She looked at me real funny, and I said, no, seriously, she'll stay back. And so they said, well, we guess we'll let you on. And so they booked me on this, and I said, honey, we'll see you later. So I think she's about to arrive in Asheville right about now. And so that's the rest of the story. But I share that because you know what? When you're committed to getting something done, you always find a way to get it done. And I'm looking out at a bunch of people who are committed to getting things done. You find ways, you find money that you never thought you could find. You answer the calls from everybody who complain about why didn't you do this one thing that they asked you to do when you did 99 others. And people will put things on Facebook they would never say to your face. Would you agree with that? How many of you get little Facebook trolls that say things about you on Facebook? Well, we get a lot of them in Washington, D.C. And, my favorite, I may have shared this with some of y'all in D.C., my favorite was the one who called me a moron and spelled it incorrectly. So you get some of that. But I want to come back to the part about unfunded mandates. Because so much of what's happening right now are rules and regulations that are coming down from Washington, D.C., being put off many times on the state. And then those states, what do? They put it on you. And then what do you have to do? You have to raise taxes or find the money or implement it some way. We've just got to stop that, guys. And I'm telling you that there are both Democrats and Republicans in Washington, D.C. that say enough is enough. Now, it is up to you to make sure that you call your member of Congress, whether they're a Democrat or a Republican, and just tell them how bad it's hurting. Now, the reason I know how bad it's hurting is because I get county commissioners who tell me on a regular basis how bad it hurts. But sometimes, you need to keep that line of communication open, if you will. I will say that and I think many of you that were in D.C. heard some of this, we passed some legislation that's sitting in the Senate right now that will deal with that. But whether you're in Massachusetts or in North Carolina or in California, the unfunded mandates are going to sink your county budgets. You get to deal with it with HHS and veterans and a number of other areas where what they say is you got to provide this particular service, you got to provide a person to do it, and by the way, they'll pay you for half of a person. So you wonder, what are you going to do with the other half a person? And you got to figure a way to do that. And here's the other part of some of those mandates. Sometimes they say, well, they can only do this particular job. We'll pay you for half the time, and the other half, you're going to have to come up with the money on your own, and there may not be a full-time job there. They don't want them doing something else. So we need to give counties more flexibility, especially, when you're looking at something that is federally mandated. Because I can tell you, they do not know what is best for your county in Washington, D.C. I can say that without a doubt. Any county that is out there, they do not know what is best in Washington, D.C. So unfunded mandates is one. The other is, and Connie mentioned this earlier, there is a partnership between federal, state, and county with our veterans. And here is one of those areas that we are failing miserably. And I say failing miserably, we've got to do a better job. Not only of the horrific things that we've seen on national TV with waiting lines, but also with the benefit side of things. You get folks that have made a commitment to their God and their country. They come back, and we change the deal. Or we make it so difficult on them to get their records that it's tough. And so I can tell you, somebody was talking about Mark Walker, Larry Phillips. It wasn't you that said Mark Walker's your member of Congress. So Larry was talking about the great constituent services that Mark is doing, which is big shoes to fill because Howard Coble used to be in that seat. And so when you look at that, what needs to take place is that constant interaction between county, state, and federal. And if you will do that, I promise what you will start to see is a real result. Because we feel the pressure. Sometimes you're like a pebble in the shoe. Other times you're more like a rock. And I can tell you, there's a few of you, Ronnie will call me, and we call him the hammer. So, he comes in and but we need to be persistent there. And I share that because not knowing which member of Congress that may represent you. But I can tell you that they all have the same desire to serve, regardless of party. They all have the same need to hear from you. There are a lot of times when something's going on, I have no idea that it's going on, then all of a sudden I get a call, and they say, well, did you realize this was going on over here? And so you go into engage. Here's the other thing that I'm going to encourage you not to do. And my colleagues may get me for saying this. When they say, well, I'll check and I'll get back to you, if it is more than a week, call back. Because there is a thing they call defer and delay in Washington, D.C., is that if you call them, if they can defer you and delay you long enough, they may think that you will forget about it. Now, the truth is, you don't forget about it. You mark it down. And you say, that's one other time that they failed to respond. And I say that because it is imperative in these tough fiscal times that we work together, that we try to get rid of some of these burdensome unfunded mandates that are out there, that we try to find a way to provide for those that need that safety net. And you have them in your communities, each one of them. And the problem is when we look at that, a little cut in Washington, D.C. may seem like it's only cutting the back. You and I both know that it cuts to the bone many times. And so establish those relationships. So I'm going to close with this because I promised Ronnie I wouldn't go too long. You've traveled a long ways to Western North Carolina. I I believe that the commissioners here and the sheriff hopefully have shown you hospitality and made sure that you know that you're welcome. So I want to take it even one step further. I think the furthest one tonight on both ends, Johnny Carswell from Burke and Connie from Graham. And, Johnny is 2 hours and 15 minutes that way. He said 90 minutes. It's only 5 miles, but it's 90 minutes to get there. Y'all know what I'm talking about, don't you? But what we have to do is I want you to know that a friend to the counties in Mark Meadows will translate beyond the 17 counties that I represent. And I say that if you call me and you've got a particular issue, if you call any of my county commissioners and you say, gosh, this is a big deal, I will deal with it on their level and then quietly make sure that that gets to the appropriate person in your congressional district. Because I know most of them in both parties, and I tell you what, it's interesting because we got folks here, G.K. Butterfield over in the Far East. G.K. and I have teamed up a number of times, and he would tell you the same thing. We are friends, 2 different parties, but we're friends willing to come together on a number of issues, and that's what we need to do. The American people are tired of gridlock. They're tired of politics as usual. And it's time that we come together not only for this state, but this nation, and make a difference. God bless you. Welcome to Western North Carolina. It's an honor to be here.
Congressman, we really appreciate and we know the effort you made to get here now. We have presented one of these pins to all the folks who's visiting with us, and we certainly want to have one. This is not only from our board. This represents all the companies and for what you do for us every day. And we appreciate you. Thank you. Just let the Congressman I'll share with you, and where he led the fight for us. Where you're sitting in Macon County, we are 49% owned by the federal government in Macon County. Where Connie lives in Graham County, that number reaches a little over 65%. Swain County is 87% owned by the federal government. So there was this bill called Secure Rural Schools. Secure Rural Schools was basically for all of us out west that the federal government owns a lot of property. For every board foot of timber that was taken to that property, the money would go directly to the schools. Like Macon County over the past 5 years, we've been close to $1.6 million, which is huge to Macon County. So when we were up visiting with Mark and talking to him on the phone, and thank you, Congressman, for your help with that. That has now been funded. It's only for 2 years, but Mark has promised he'll have it in a budget line item. Maybe not. But that has been, which is huge for our rural. For a lot of you that don't mean anything, but for our rural communities, it's huge. So I wanted to make sure we thank the Congressman for it. So thank you, Congressman. We appreciate it. And the effort he made to get here tonight is wonderful. Is Kim Angel still here? She just left. She just left. Well, Kim Angel is our director for Macon Transit. She helped put us together for your transportation here if you rode one of the buses. So even though Kim's not here, we really appreciate her and her staff. So let's give them a good hand for that. Now, our next is just going to be remarks. No talk, no speech. Maybe a little. I want to talk a bit about our executive director, Kevin Leonard, of our association. Kevin's luck of the draw. I was the first president he got out and rattled them off. So, but Kevin Leonard, and you heard him mention it today, that it seemed like Thompson knew exactly when to pull the plug. But Kevin has done a wonderful job. You can tell that by the staff, by the folks that he's bringing on to work with us. We work closely together. I can't tell you how hard Kevin Leonard works for your association. When you see it day to day, I think Brenda will attest to this, Fred McClure will, as will Glenn. That Kevin, he's like one of those people you're talking about first on the job and last to leave. That's our executive director. So, Kevin, we appreciate you. We thank you for what you do. So please give our executive director, Kevin Leonard, a good hand as he comes.
Thank you, Ronnie. I have to say to Ronnie and to the executive officers that I feel like I bug them all the time. I'm always on the phone with them, keeping them up to date on things, but their leadership is critical to everything that we've talked about today. It was a pretty heavy agenda. I know we threw a lot of critical information at you, and I thought we had some really great discussions. I'm looking forward to some more tomorrow. Ronnie particularly, luck of the draw, as he said. Sometimes it's like a comedy show when we have an executive committee meeting, and it is so enjoyable. It is great. You should be a fly on the wall with all of these executive committee members. It's truly a pleasure. I think it's really fitting that we're having this dinner tonight in the fellowship hall. Which, by the way, y'all are aware that this facility, this entire church, was built by Beal Construction. I don't know if y'all knew that or not, but this is Beal built, and it's built well. So it's a fine place. Just don't lean on the column. Yeah, on the third one down, don't lean on Michael Kelly, don't lean on that column. You know why I think it's so fitting that we're here in the fellowship hall. And it's something that resonated with me listening to Commissioner Fry speak earlier and also Commissioner Ward from earlier today. You know, we come to these meetings and we don't know each other's political affiliations. Y'all, frankly, I don't. Sometimes I have to look up which political affiliation our commissioners are. And that's something worth saying, I think. And that this is an extreme value of this association is that we gather here and we have fellowship around tables like this. And we talk about things that are in common from one end of the state to the entire other end of the state. And that we are in this together. And I think now more than ever, this is critical to recognize for our association. And tomorrow, as Ronnie said, is going to be an extraordinary day for our association. The last time we did something like this, President Kitty Barnes was leading the effort 10 years ago for our very first strategic plan for our 100-plus-year-old organization. And so now you are lucky to be at the time and place where you're leading our organization for the next 10 years and for the next set of commissioners, the next staff that will be here. And I think that's pretty extraordinary and worth saying. And so tomorrow we get to do that work. The staff that I get to work with and the colleagues that I have, I think have done an incredible job of putting together a workbook for you. We've given you some homework, and it's in the form of the workbook that I hope you received. If you haven't had a chance to review it, if you get a chance to do that, Sarah McGilsky, our Chief Communications Officer, said if you put it under your pillow tonight, it will just absorb into your head. And so that's a good way to do that. If you have your iPad with you or a computer, I encourage you to go to your agenda website and look at the video that they produced to get us ready. And you'll see Commissioner Barnes and President Beal on there, which I thought was just great. We bookended that really well, and that was their idea, to put that together for you. And that gives you a good picture of where we are, where we've been, and where we're going. So I hope that information has been helpful and useful to you. If you've taken notes, you'll get a chance to share that tomorrow. I think we have a really good program for you. So that's all I really wanted to do. Ronnie, if I may, though, if I could ask you and your Macon County colleagues to join us up here, I have a special presentation for you and the Macon board. It's not a check. We already sent those checks out. I'll remind you again. We sent the checks out. Elizabeth Floyd, make sure we sent those checks out. It's hard to surprise Ronnie Beal, okay? So I don't know if you knew about this or not. I don't think you did. But he already mentioned this earlier today. And what we are doing on behalf of the association, we'd like to present you with this plaque, and we hope we can find a place to put it, commemorating the April 2015 meeting of the NCACC Board of Directors led by President Ronnie Beal, Macon County Commission, held in the town of Franklin, Macon County. The meeting is believed to be the farthest west the board has ever met since it was founded in 1908. This date, April 23rd, 24th, 2015. Thank you all for hosting.
Well, thank you very much. It was a surprise, but it's our pleasure to host you at Macon County. It really is. I think every commissioner from you has served my board so well. I think I call each one of you a good friend. I wouldn't care to call you by some jail in a minute. And that's the truth. I mean, I really appreciate that. We have so many people to thank though who make this happen. The folks here. But I would like for one person that we've not had a chance to thank again, that without her and her work, which has been just yeoman's work. Sheila Salmons, if you would please stand one more time. We would like to thank you. All these folks here would like to thank you for everything. Sheila's worked very hard, and we appreciate it. Before we close, we take some pictures. We'll close with a little story. Had a good friend of mine, pastor friend, had a dream. He said that he had a dream the Lord granted him one wish. And he said, Lord, I've always wanted to go to Hawaii, but I'm afraid to get on an airplane. He said, I will not fly. He said, okay. So hesitated a few minutes, and the voice came back to him and said, look, the logistics of that are impossible. Can't you think of something more reasonable than that? He said, okay. Can you explain the thoughts and actions of a little kind of general assembly? And the come back and he said, would you like to have a 2-lane or 4-lane road over? So our work, we've got our work cut out for us. It's been a great day. Tomorrow is a historical day. We're going to start off tomorrow. Kitty Barnes don't know this, but she's going to be asked to say a few words in the morning. Because 10 years ago, and a lot of you when you first became active in this association, that's what you referred to when Kitty was president. And so tomorrow is when we want you to be involved. It's going to be one of those days when your input is critical. The Merle Fest is going on. I see Wilkes County every year looking at the ones. But we thank them so much for coming. We thank all of y'all for being here. Are there any more questions, anybody, any comments before we close? Yes, sir, Mr. Ed. Ed Booth said I owe him $3 million. The check's in the mail. Just like those that Elizabeth sent out. Anything else from the members, from the board? If not, have a good evening. We'll see you bright and early in the morning. Thank you so much for being here. The bands are outside. If you're driving back, drive careful. And we'll see you in the morning. Thank you so much. Thank you again, Andrew Medical Center, for a wonderful meeting. Thank you.